I'm Josh Bacon, and I'm here today to talk about my experience with alcoholism and addiction. My sobriety date is August 3rd, 2017, and just from that day, I have admitted defeat over this disease. Um, Start off with my childhood. I grew up in a very small town, Grand Slick, Kentucky, and a really small school. Everyone seemed tight knit, real close family, including my own family in my house. And I always felt like I didn't fit in. I always felt that way all through my life. Uh, and I don't know, I would fill that void with crazy stuff like stealing, fighting, and lying. And I believe at a young age that was my solution to my alcoholism, because I do believe I was born an alcoholic. I would always try to fill that void, and growing up through the years, it would progress into fighting with my dad, trying to get away with stuff, um, and that's really what made my childhood so difficult on myself. I made it difficult on myself. I would just do the craziest stuff to try to get this rush, to try to feel a part of, or try to feel accepted, try to get attention on me. I would do all these crazy things like steal people's bikes that literally lived on the same street as me. And really it was just I wanted what they had. I wanted their stuff. Their stuff was always better because I always picked myself apart in my life. And I did get beat as a child, and we did move a lot, but that was not that was not what pushed me to drink and use drugs. Um, Growing up, I was the middle child, so like I never felt like I had my place in life. I would act out in school, ultimately getting kicked out of schools. And then when it was around middle school is when I discovered marijuana. Um, I always wanted to stay away from those kids, but when I seen that they were a lot like me and they were happy, I wanted what they had and I went after it. And they introduced me to weed, and when I smoked it, all these problems that I thought I had went away. All of a sudden, this world was this amazing place. The teachers, they were teaching me stuff I wanted to learn, you know what I mean? And the kids at school that I hated weren't so bad. I accepted my parents for who they were. I loved life while I was high on weed. Like, I thought the world was a beautiful place. But when I wasn't, I didn't know how much I hated the world until I was high. Um, and it didn't progress real fast in the beginning. I would obsess about the weekend all week long. I could not wait till Friday. I can't wait till the weekend. I can't wait to meet up with my friends and do these things. But this is all hindsight. I didn't really know all of this. And school, it was already bad. It got even worse now. My home life, I totally disconnected from my home life. It was all about this rush that I was looking for, and I got it through marijuana. Um, Progressing through that, it would turn like that was when I was 12, and it progressed till when I was about 14. I drank for the first time, and that was a whole new experience in itself because it made me feel this amount of bravery that I've never felt before. Like with weed, I was happy and everything was content. But with alcohol, I became this person that my mind said that I could be. I was brave enough to do things. I could talk to girls. I could be goofy. I could dance. You know what I mean? I could do all these things that my mind said I was capable of doing, but I could not bring myself to do them. And alcohol made me be the person that I always wanted to be. And that's when it really progressed, because when I didn't have alcohol, I felt this crippling weight of that I could not be this guy that I knew I had the potential to be. And so I wanted to be that guy all the time. But being at that young age and who my parents were, they didn't allow it. So the days that I didn't have it, I was like extremely depressed. I was extremely irritable. I was just not your ideal child. They put me through therapy. They put me through all these programs that they wanted to figure out what was wrong with me. And I never completely got honest with the therapist or anybody, really, because I barely even knew what was wrong with me. All I really knew is that I just wanted to get drunk with my friends and be the cool guy. And I didn't really take that into consideration if that was my problem. The problem is all these people are down my throat, and they won't just let me be who I want to be. And 16, when I was 16, is when you were legally allowed to make your own decisions. I dropped out of high school with my parents' signature. I got a job, and I decided to go to college because that was fixing the outside world to where people would leave me alone just enough to where I could do what I wanted to do. My drinking took off. I would drink every day. I would go to class. I'd be this guy that I wanted to be, and I'm this 16-year-old kid that's in college and I got a job and I think I'm an adult. Really, I'm on my way to the darkest road that I could ever imagine. Shortly after that, I didn't last long in college. I didn't even last long at that job because my drinking and my marijuana use and pills were introduced to me in this time, because little did I know getting a job opens up your whole world. So like it's progressed to pills, weed, and alcohol. And at that time, I'm still young enough to where people weren't judging me for not having a job, and I can go around party, I can do whatever I want. I'm not in school. So like I'm fighting to move out of my parents' house because I can't live the way I want to live. So I ended up running away a couple times. And it's 2 party houses. I'm leaving, I'm staying weeks at a time at these party houses, and it's older people, and they're just feeding me alcohol and the things that I want, and I'm just living what I think at the time is my best life. It progresses over the years into the pill use, like huge amount of pills just running through Kentucky, and I can get my hands on all of them. And I did over the next 5 years, I've accumulated experience with all types of different pills. And it didn't matter what they were as long as it changed who I felt like I was on the inside. And then around the time I turned 21, 22, my life changed because everyone around me was starting to like die down on the party life. They were getting real jobs and getting houses and finding their husbands and wives, and they were just settling down and growing up. And I didn't. I couldn't stop. I couldn't figure it out of why do you ever want to leave this life? And so I continued on my own, by myself. I'd always find 1 or 2 people to cling on to that would be there for me, but we would always trade drugs and money back and forth, and ultimately I was alone with my addiction. At this point, it was a full-blown addiction. At the age of 21, I had my first son, and that's when I got the thought in my head of I really need to change my life. I really got to start doing what everyone else around me is doing. So I spent the 9 months of her pregnancy working and getting high. And I kept telling myself, when that boy comes, I gotta stop getting high. Well, he comes and I can't stop getting high. I never brought myself to do it. So it continued through him growing up, you know what I mean? And by the time he was the age of 3, I've done destroyed this whole relationship, and I've separated this boy's parents. I'm homeless at this point because I chose drugs over my kid. I chose drugs over the love of my life. I chose drugs over everything because I couldn't stop. In my mind, I didn't want to stop. Deep down, I did want to stop. I didn't know how, and I could not live life without them, is what I thought. So I continued on. You would think that was my bottom. It was not my bottom. I continued on homeless and couch surfing for years, bouncing around jobs and not really bouncing in and out of jail. That's really what I was doing. And I continued that for 4 more years till I had another child, and it was the same cycle. When this boy gets here, I gotta stop. And it was literally play by play the same cycle. I didn't stop, but I convinced myself that I could stop. But when the time came to stop, I didn't, and it destroyed everything, and I'm back on the streets, in and out of jail. That's when I really, really wanted to fight to stop, and that's really the harder I fought it, the stronger this alcoholism got. Like, I would just lock myself in a room and detox. And I thought I could do it by myself. I thought I could do all this. Like, as long as I just get clean, get over this dope sickness, I'll be fine. So I would lock myself up in a room 3 or 4 days, sometimes 7. And the minute that I could get out of bed comfortably, I would come out of the room for the first time in days, and I would find myself in the car on the way to get dope. Like, how did this happen? Like, I just spent the last 5 days in the worst state of mind that I've ever been in my whole life, and 10 minutes outside of that room, I let it all collapse. And I couldn't explain it, but I know that once I started, I couldn't stop. Because I would go on that run again for years. I'd leave my kids behind again. I'd go to jail for months at a time. And in my mind, I'm getting my weight back up in jail. I'm eating. I'm getting out. I'm thinking more clear than I've ever thought before in my life. So when I get out, all I gotta do is get a job and live the life the way I thought it should be. I'd get out and these problems would pile up. Well, I have all these charges and these jobs ain't taking me. I know I deserve this job because I'm capable of it, but my background says that I'm not, so they won't hire me. And that makes me feel some type of way about myself. I would go to a different job, same thing. Now the PO's on me because I can't find a job when all these warehouses are hiring, but I want this job, so I'm not working. My PO's demanding money. You got to pay the PO. So all these problems are piling up. So I don't like that feeling of the pressure in life, and I resolutely look for relief. And the only relief that I know at this point is through pills, heroin, alcohol, weed, whatever. I never really had a drug of choice, but I knew that I did not want to feel that way, and I knew what made me not feel that way anymore. So I would always just run straight to that, every time. And I did this for years, with no awareness that I was doing this. My alcoholism was calling the shots. It was controlling my life. Because no matter how bad I wanted a job, how bad I wanted to be a father, no, I wanted to be all these things, and alcohol was pretty much telling me no. You're going to do this. You're going to be cool with being homeless because we can drink. You're going to be cool with couch surfing because they get high with you for free. Like, you're going to be cool with that stuff because that's the only way you're going to get high, the way you want to get high. So a couple years go by. At this point I've progressed to a needle, and I want to say for like 10 years I said I would never ever use a needle. But I started off with marijuana, let's just say that, and I was super content with marijuana. And over the 12-year span, I would push the limits a little bit more and more, where I was more comfortable, say, snorting a pill. When I first smoked weed, I never imagined that I'd be snorting a pill, ever. But after smoking weed for so long and normalizing that, it was almost not normal for me not to snort a pill with my friends. And then once snorting a pill became normal, why am I not drinking a fifth of whiskey and snorting these pills and just leave weed behind? And then instead of just snorting pills, why aren't we snorting heroin and meth? Like, what? And then when that became normal, snorting it no longer worked. I'm sitting here snorting a gram of heroin, and it's not doing anything for me. And like I said, my alcoholism calls my shots, and it's like, we need relief. We can't feel this way anymore. And I'm throwing $60 at this gram that's not doing anything for me. My buddy's spending $20, and he's using a needle, and he is higher than I've ever been. And that's the convincing part of my obsession that says it's okay to use a needle because you get that relief. My mental obsession towards this relief convinced me that it's okay to use a needle, when deep down inside I knew how wrong it was. I knew that I never wanted to do that. But over a period of 12 years, and my mind convinced me that it was okay, because that was the only way. That was the only way to not feel the way I didn't want to feel anymore, was to stick that needle in my arm. And it was very convincing. It grabbed a hold of me at that point, because when I stuck the needle in my arm for the first time, it was everything that I ever wanted. So I thought. And that was my purpose in life, was that next high. Every day, day in and day out for months. I only lasted for months. Because at one point, I had this moment of clarity of, what is this life that I'm living right now? I believe I called my baby mom, my third baby mom. It was the same scenario, so I called my third baby mom for some money, and I told her to meet me at a pawn shop. I didn't have an ID, and I had some stolen stuff I wanted her to pawn. Well, she brought my daughter along, and I'm in the midst of the madness of this vicious cycle is what it is, and I'm trying to get my next fix. My obsession is going strong, and she brings my daughter, and she tells me to wait in the car with my daughter. Like, I'm not just going to wait in the car, I'm going to get her out of the car seat, and I'm going to, see her. I'm holding my daughter, and she comes out of the pawn shop, and she's like, they won't take none of this stuff, and she looks at me like, deep down, she cuts through the obsession. She looks me dead in the eye, and she's like, just come home. And I'm holding my daughter, and I'm looking at her in the eyes, and she's the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen in my life. And I couldn't. I break down crying. This was the point that I knew I was powerless, because the love that I felt towards this child was not going to stop me from doing what I know I had to do. And at that point, it was get high. My mind was telling me I had to get high. And I had to leave this innocent little girl behind, because I didn't know what else to do. And that's when everything fell apart. I was on a hell-bent road of destruction. because I hated myself so much for putting her back in that car seat and walking away when I had the option to go back home. I wanted to kill myself. That was my bottom, but it didn't stop me. That was the bottom that I hold on to today. I continued on after that for months and just wanting to kill yourself so much, but being too afraid to. Because if you kill yourself, you can't get high anymore. That's just the way my mind works. Not the fact that I'm going to leave my daughter behind, or my 2 sons, or my mom, or all these other people in this world that I've destroyed our relationship. It's the fact that I can't get high anymore. I don't want to kill myself. I wish that was my bottom, but I continued on to homelessness, and I dug deeper than that. Like mentally, my purpose was to get high, and I got ruthless with it. I got super careless about my life. I had no regards to my life or anyone else's, and I was dealing with the dope boys in Cincinnati that they didn't like me because I was ruthless, and the lengths that I would go to get what they had, and I had no money, so I'd rob these men with guns, and you know what I mean? I just take off running, and that's all I knew. It was extremely dangerous, and that's just pitiful. Pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization to the point of I'm a kid that doesn't fit in to a dude that doesn't care about his life. Like, that's a progression. And it happened over 12 years. The madness story ends around this time. I'm exhausted. Because at this point, I know I want to stop, and I can't. And I keep going. I'm not driving my madness anymore. It's my obsession that's driving me. This craving that I can't satisfy anymore. Those are the 2 things that are keeping me going in the madness. But my body and my mind, my emotions, I'm exhausted. But my alcoholism is going to go and keep going until it kills me. It's stronger than I am. It's going to keep pulling me, and I'm just a human that's being dragged through this pile of, I don't even know, just the worst imaginable experience you can ever imagine. It's going to kill me eventually. Through exhaustion, through too much in my body, like, it's going to kill me. And it's just dragging me along. So I get arrested. I never felt relief from getting arrested in my life. Like, because I knew that when I was locked in this box, like, this alcoholism can't get me. I know that whatever this is, it can't control me anymore. I'm locked in this box. I feel safe. It's crazy to say, like, even to this day, like, I feel safe locked in jail. Like, I can't get this drug. I can't get this alcohol. It can no longer control me. And I'm so content being in jail. Like, I slept like a baby the first night. I have no worries. I have no chasing to do. I have nothing. I got no responsibilities to gain this relief, or I'm no longer letting anyone down. I'm in jail. Okay? And now when you find relief in jail, and when you find happiness in jail, like, I believe that's a rock bottom. Because no human being should be happy to be locked up like that. But it is so much better than what I was doing. Of course, I do the whole thing of call my mom, and Mom, I'm locked up, but this time was different. Mom, I'm safe. Like, no, I don't need any money. I'm just safe. Okay? And I don't know how long I'm going to be in here, and really, I just don't care. I'm just going to be here. And I sat there for 2 months, and then they finally, like, came. it was a possession charge, and they came to me with a deal of rehab. And this is the baffling part of it, because I was so happy to be in there and safe, and I don't have to sleep in the woods anymore. I don't have to chase and steal, and I was so happy for that. But the minute that these lawyers came and said there's a chance that I can get out to rehab, my mind immediately was like, you're getting out. You can get high. That's immediately what happened. And now all of a sudden I'm presented with this opportunity to get out of this box. And I no longer feel powerless anymore. I no longer have that feeling. So now I'm scheming of ways to get the shortest rehab amount, or can I go to IOP? I'm trying to figure all this stuff out, like how can I get high successfully this time? And I really wasn't aware of it, but that's what my mind did. It immediately went back to trying to kill me. I'm blessed to have the mother that I have, because she really took control of the situation and the PO, and said that if you send him to this 90-day program that was going to like let me live at my house and stuff, she said it won't work. It's not enough. And that's the program that I was fighting for. And because it was the closest to the door. It was the smallest hurdle to get high. So they were adamant about not letting me out until I signed for long-term treatment. And I denied it the first time, but then she left me in there for a week with no word. And she's like, I'll be back in a week. And I sat there and just stewed on it. I'm like, that's my best option, really. So I kind of lightweight got manipulated into signing for long-term treatment, but I'm blessed for it today. So I took the deal for long-term treatment. And in my mind, the minute they take their eyes off me, I'm running. I'm running. And I've made this decision up. And remember that I've already felt relief, and I'm found awareness that I'm being drugged through this maze of death that they call a madness. I'm aware of it. I'm aware that it's killing me. And I forget about it the minute they say that I have an opportunity to get out of this box. I forget all about that pain. I forget all about the suffering and all the relationships that I've destroyed. And my mind's only thinking about that high. It's only thinking about the good parts, which is very little. The good parts of getting high is like very small compared to the bullshit you deal with. And so the minute I arrive at this rehab, I'm sitting here telling myself I'm gonna run, and I can't let them see me run, which they're not gonna stop me. They have no authority to stop me. I could just literally walk out, but I'm so like crippled in fear of what these people think of me that I don't even want to let them see me leave. They didn't take their eyes off of me until 2 weeks later, when I fell in love with my bed. I've gained enough relationships with these people in this rehab that makes me comfortable enough to stay. And that's God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself, because I really was going to run, and His timing is impeccable. Because I reached this level of comfortability enough to where I made the conscious decision to stay. And it's a 6-month program, and that was 2 weeks into it before I decided to even stay. And it was another 2.5 months before I even decided to take action into my recovery. But within that 2.5 months, I learned about alcoholism. I learned about what my mind was and how powerful it was. I learned about AA and what that was. It was this introduction into this whole new world, and it took me 3 months to even become aware of it. That's just how cloudy my mind was. they told me that I suffer from this physical allergy. I'm allergic to mind and mood altering substance. It starts off with being irritable, restless, and discontent. And to me, that's like, I have this mind that I can create this perfect world and all these perfect scenarios, and if you just do what I say, everything's going to be great. It's going to work out perfectly if you just listen to me. But then when I ground myself in reality, that's not reality at all. And that difference makes me irritable, restless, and discontent. And then the more and more that I try to play this image out in my head that doesn't happen in reality, I get this emotional buildup. And for a guy like me that suppressed his emotions for 12 years with heroin, drugs, and all that, this emotional buildup is extremely dangerous for me to feel. If I build it up too high with no relief, I have this mental obsession that's going to kick in. It's like, hey, we can't feel like this. We're not allowed to feel like this, so let's put a drug in us so we can feel different, so we can feel better. And little did I know my whole life that I'm allergic to this stuff, and my reaction is this craving. When I put a substance in my body, I get a craving, and it's a craving that cannot be satisfied, and it will push you to the limits of your body to where some people chase it to death. Some people chase it to just pure insanity for the rest of their lives. God plucked me out of that little cycle and said, hey, let's try to do something here. And that little cycle ends in jails, institutions, or death. Luckily for me, it was jails and institutions. And when I got to that institution, I started listening. I related to someone else. And I was like, hey, I might be like you guys. Like, all of a sudden, I didn't feel alone for the first time in my life. I was in a room full of people and I didn't feel alone. And that's the first time I've ever felt that. And that was a small spiritual experience that made me crave more. I wanted more of it. So what did they tell me? That get a sponsor. Start fellowshipping. Build a network of recovery. And when I got my sponsor, it was a guy. I wanted what he had. I wanted his happiness and his peace. And I spent the last 12 years working step one. Actually, it was 26 years, but 12 years it was drilled into me of how powerless and unmanageable my life was. Because my best thinking got me into jail and rehab. That was my best thinking. They kept telling me that the solution was God. Like, if you're going to even have a fighting chance at a new life, you've got to develop this relationship with God. And that's when I thought I was doomed. Like, oh, this is not going to work for me whatsoever. And they taught me how to build a relationship. They're like, if you want to build a relationship with another person, how do you do it? You talk to them. So I started praying. I started asking God to show me what you want me to do. Show me how to live this life that just show me. Light the way for me. And He would show me through other people. That's how I built my God. It was through other people showing me things, and I had to be open-minded for all these things to take place. I had to swallow my pride, let go of these survival instincts that I've held on, because I want to be the protector of my emotions, and that's by not feeling them. So I'm going to keep you at arm's length and complain about being lonely. Like, that's alcoholism to me. So I had to actually let people in. I had to tell them the truth about where my mind was and what I'm feeling and my true beliefs. And then they would just in return not tell me that I was wrong, but they would slowly, over time, change my beliefs. And that's through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps. Because there's this process that you got to take. it cleans your soul, and it aligns your mind with your soul, and then all of a sudden your whole body's working together. And you're just growing. And your life slowly gets better over time. And us alcoholics, we want it now. We want it right now. But I had just enough time in that rehab to grasp the concept of that nothing is going to be easy in this life. And it's all going to take a long time. And it's so worth working a little over time to get this amount of relief. Like, I've never been more happy today than ever, and I haven't had a drug in my body in over 2 years. And for someone like me that comes from homelessness and stuff, like, it's just crazy to say that I am where I am today. With my mind, with my emotions, and I can feel the presence of my soul and God, and just to even talk about those things is something just unreal for me. And it's through the 12 steps. It's through following the will of AA and God, and it's totally changing your life. My life stayed the same until I changed. And then when I changed, everything changed. My whole perception. I used to want to watch this world burn. I wanted just the worst things for this world, and now I see the beauty in everything. I see God all over. I'm a father today. My kids know who I am. And that is not, I did the footwork, but it's through the power of God. And I did not believe in God. I didn't not believe in God, and I didn't believe in God. Like, there was no thought of God 2 years ago. But it has drastically changed my life, like 300%, to where when I was getting high, all I wanted was a house and a car and a job. Those were the things that I thought would make my life whole. If I didn't have those things today, I would be 300% more happy than I was 2 years ago. Because all these internal blessings that I've received of, like, peace of mind, courage, like, all these things that I thought that I wanted, like the material stuff, it doesn't even matter. None of it matters. It's these internal blessings that I receive, like this wholeness of that no matter what, I'm going to be okay. The sense of impending doom is gone, and I can just live peacefully in my life and content with no matter the circumstance. I have the power to do those things today. And I don't need a needle. I don't need a straw or a joint or a bottle. I don't need any of those things. All I need is this power within myself that I call God. And through the 2 years of sobriety, there's like two sides of it. There is the dark side of sobriety, of you watch your friends go back out and you watch your friends die, but there's always newcomers that come in that need you to show them the way that I was shown. These guys need to be shown. It's like bittersweet. So, like, it's not rainbows and butterflies. It's not easy. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but it is so much better than the life that I was living. I do deal with depression still, but it doesn't hold me back in life the way it would have 2 years ago. I don't let my emotions affect the outcome of my life. Like, I feel those emotions. They're mine to feel. I don't push them on anyone else. They're mine. And I'm grateful to feel them today. I still have this mind that sees the perfect world, but I have found acceptance, and then that's not the truth. And if it was the truth, it would be pretty miserable to live in a perfect world. Because without the dark side of things, there would be no light. And today I'm just grateful for the opportunity to help somebody. That is my purpose in life, is to be of maximum service to everyone around me. And I don't ever want to give that up. And I don't want to trade this peace of mind and this fullness that I have for use of drugs. I wouldn't trade that for anything. I wouldn't trade my experience at the same time. Everything that I've done in my life has led me to the knowledge and experience that I have today. And all it is just a tool to give someone else, to learn from, experience. And if you're suffering today and you want to stop, the one thing I want to say is you cannot do it by yourself. If you really want to skip some of the stages that I skipped, go reach out for help. Go to your nearest AA meeting. Go to a rehab and ask, like, what can I do for help? And if you're not going to let your kids or your job or anything else stop you from getting high, don't let your kids, your job, your family, don't let anyone stop you from getting help. Because you're not going to have any of those things if you're dead. So get help, and you cannot do it by yourself. It's going to be hard, but what you're doing right now is hard. So really, what side of the fence do you want to be on? I'd like to thank Shane for having me here, and thank you.